What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new Netflix series review, and this is a special one because this is one of my favorite directors working today, and that is Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to break down in this review, and I'm so excited to be here, and I'm going to let you all know if it's worth checking out in this breakdown video. But before we dive into it, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you enjoyed this breakdown, discussion, review for Midnight Mass, then make sure to like and share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, once you've seen Midnight Mass, we got to talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know your thoughts on the story, the performances, the direction, the scares, the thrills. What was your favorite episode, your favorite moment? What moment did you cry? Which moment did you scream? Were you disappointed? Were you let down? Let's talk about everything that the show had to offer in the comments below. So before I dive into my thoughts here, if you all have been part of this community, you know how we do things around here in regards to my Netflix reviews. But if you're new, welcome. But essentially the way I like to do Netflix reviews is I like to give the first half of the video non-spoiler thoughts, just give you my take on the moments that worked, that didn't work, obviously without spoiling anything, talking about the characters, the performances, the direction, all that basic stuff you can see from my movie reviews, but again, not spoiling anything from the show. Second half, we're talking spoilers. We're getting into a discussion. I'm going to kind of break down each episode. Some episodes will get a little bit more in-depth conversation. Other ones, I'm just going to highlight some of the big moments, and it's going to be more of a discussion. So first half, no spoilers. Second half, spoiler discussion, time codes, and all that stuff in the description. So if you haven't seen the show, you can watch the first half, and once you've seen the show, you can watch the entire thing and have a good time in the comments. So that's how we're going to do things on this video. So first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, Midnight Mass, 7 episodes, 1 hour apiece, one of my most anticipated shows this year. Mike Flanagan has yet to fail me as a director as a whole, but as a horror director in particularly. The man knows what he's doing behind the camera. So whether it be his films, Hush, Dr. Sleep, Gerald's Game, whether it be what he's done on television, which, by the way, Haunting on Hill House is one of my favorite pieces of horror of any media. Bly Manor, fantastic. So I was beyond excited to see what he has up his sleeve with this series. So again, let's get into my thoughts here. Non-spoilers, starting off with, what are we diving into? Where are we at? What's this island called Crockett Island? Well, ladies and gentlemen, aka Crockett Island, also known in the show as the Crock Pot. It's a small island that unfortunately many years ago it was affected by an oil spill, which kind of really messed up the economy of this island, which allowed a lot of people to unfortunately leave the island, leaving the island to about 100 and 200, 300 maybe people on the island. So a very small, tight-knit group. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows everyone's secrets and that type of situation going on here. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a storm of miracles that is about to hit Crockett Island. So what is this? Who's on this island? Who are the main characters that we're following? Who are some of the standout cast members? I want to start off with Kate Siegel, who's worked with Mike Flanagan with almost all the projects he's done. They happen to be married and they have really great chemistry together. But Kate Siegel, I've always loved her. I think she's such a fantastic actress. She plays a character by the name of Erin Green. And without diving too deep into Erin, she has a relationship with a particular character by the name of Riley, a young relationship that kind of faded away as they got older, but it's in Erin's story that we get to see her in the present day, and she is someone that swore to never come back to this island, but she finds her way back on the island. She is now back on the island. She has a baby on the way, Littlefoot, and seeing Erin's journey throughout, as we're seeing her throughout all 7 episodes, who I would say the show doesn't initially give you Erin as the main character, but as the story kind of unfolds, you kind of see that it is kind of her main narrative as things kind of play out, especially once we get past the 4th episode. She brings the character to the forefront. She brings one of the most emotional moments in the entire show, and one of the most emotional moments I've seen in a long time. Kate has always been fantastic, and she was really great in this role, and it's just a character that, again, she never wanted to go back to this island. When she grew up, her mom was an alcoholic. She's just despised her mom. She has this kind of battle with religion and her belief in God, but she finds herself to this island after leaving it and having some things happen to her. So again, Kate was great. Erin was a fantastic character, really someone I enjoyed that journey. But I mentioned she had a young love and by the name of Riley Flynn, who initially, he's our main way into the story, because we meet Riley very early on in the show, who has something very tragic happen to him, which results to him going to jail for over 4 years. He's dealing with alcoholism. He's dealing with growing up as a choir kid, someone that was always at the altar, but he unfortunately kind of loses his faith on his 4-year jail sentence, and he becomes an atheist. And seeing, again, the story being unfolded and seeing this story so heavily diving into religion from the perspective of someone that doesn't believe in God and someone that's atheist was a very interesting perspective to get into this story. And I thought Riley was a really interesting character, and his whole family dynamic. How, will he overcome his past? Will he overcome his demons? Will he ever forgive himself? Is such a good journey. And again, his whole family, by the way, which I won't dive into all the characters, but his younger brother Warren, his mom and dad, Annie and Ed were all fantastic characters. And they're just parents. Speaking of Annie and Ed, they want the best for their son, and seeing them kind of struggle, with everything that he's done was a really fascinating kind of family dynamic within the show. The Gunning family, Sarah and her mom were fantastic. The chief, the sheriff of town, with his son Ali, was a great story of a father and son battling their belief and their religion, them being Muslim, and how is it being on the island with Christians. That was a very, very great story. But all that being said, everyone on this cast brought their A game. 2 performances for me in this show completely stole every single scene, especially scenes that they were involved in together. I'm talking about the new priest in town who's making his way to Crockpot, and that is Father Paul, and his number one fan, his number one believer in God, and that is Beverly Keane. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start off with Bev, who is the best way to describe her is the stereotypical character you love to hate in the best way possible. We've come across a Bev in our lives. I'm pretty sure you all know this type of character, a person who is holier than thou, who judges you, who gives you condescending comments, who thinks that they're better than you, and all that stuff. That's who Beverly is, and you just want to just choke Beverly. She's fantastic. The actress that plays her was incredible from the beginning all the way to the end. And it is a character that I think everyone will be buzzing about once they see the show. Bev, whew, she was something else, and we'll talk about her more in the spoiler portion. But there's another character by the name of Father Paul, who is new to Crockett Island, who is coming there to give this town of despair, this town of hopelessness, this lost town of people. He's there to give them some gifts. He's there to give them the word of God, to lift their spirits in the best way possible. And this character, Father Paul, is beyond complex. He's so mesmerizing in this character. He delivers on every line, and the actor playing him, Hamish Linklater, who I've always been a fan of. I was so impressed by him in Legion a couple years ago, but neither here nor there. He is so great in this show. Like I said, he is a new priest coming to deliver some hope to this new town. It's his journey that the character goes through. It is I was in awe of this character. The struggles he goes through, his belief system in this town, his gifts that he wants to give to the town, his past that haunts him, the making choices for others that really affects him. It is just such an incredible performance. And from the first time you meet him throughout the series, he just gave you everything in this role. And I was very impressed by Father Paul. But now let's talk about the creator, the writer, the director, the producer, the one and only Mike Flanagan, who in the press release that they sent out when they sent us the screeners, this was something he's been working on for 10 years. As you all can see on the screen now, he's had little Easter eggs of this story, Midnight Mass. And like I said, it took 10 years to make, and here it is. And to say this is a passion project, it's an understatement. You can see from every single frame to every line of dialogue to just everything, the meaning, the passion behind this is just everything. There's so much intentions behind this show, and you can see everything from Mike Flanagan in this position of directing this show, and he tells the story the way he wants to tell it. There's no pressure, there's no rushing the story. He allows you to sit. This is Mike Flanagan. He allows you to come into the story, sit within the scene with these characters, and hear these lines of dialogue, see where the characters are coming from, understand their struggle, take the scene all in. And he just says, see what I've done here. He does a masterful job of directing this show. I also have to praise his production team. They deserve just as much praise: the composer, cinematographer, lighting, sound design, hair and makeup, which we all know if you're a Mike Flanagan fan. He loves to age characters up, de-age characters, so the production, hair and makeup was fantastic. Costuming, you name it, production was absolutely flawless. I want to touch on a couple more points before I dive into my criticisms. The story and the themes. Midnight Mass is a story about religion. Midnight Mass is a story about belief, recovery, forgiveness, shame, regret, life, death, repentance, family, fear and faith. It's all illuminated within 7 episodes, an hour apiece in this show, and it's done in such a masterful way. I was just so impressed by how this show was able to tackle the themes of religion, because I know there's going to be some people out there that unfortunately this show might not work for them because it is so heavily involved in religion. And the thing I appreciate about the show, it never makes religion out to be a bad thing. It just shows you what these characters would do in their belief system, but it never says that believing in God's a good thing or a bad thing, and believing in Allah is a good thing. It never puts that light. It never tells you how to feel about the show. It just allows you to see how these characters perceive religion and what they would do in order to make their beliefs come true. So I thought that the themes in the show was absolutely fantastic, which brings me to the scares. This is Mike Flanagan, so you're going to get some scares, and I'm going to just say this. For me personally, I think Haunting on Hill House, to me, is more, in my sensibilities, is a scarier show, just for how I take in horror, but it doesn't take anything away from this show. I'll say this about the show: the thing that makes this show haunting, horrific, terrifying, scary, creepy, whatever adjective you want to name, it's the horrors in one's belief system. And it is, again, not to put religion in a negative tone or what have you, but it's in this show that the religion that they focus on, it's what people would be willing to do to make sure that their belief is strong, to make sure that they'll do anything, they'll be willing to say anything, do anything, not question anything. It's the absolute truth, and that's the fear, and that's the horror, and that's the scary thing about the show, is what people were willing to do to just follow blindly in their religion. Again, not pointing to any particular religion or belief system, but that's the horror of this show, which I think was done very, very well. It's, seeing these characters believing that there is something bigger than them, that there is a bigger purpose in their lives. It's incredibly haunting, especially when you see the main, which I won't spoil, the main horror elements that are present in the show and how everything unfolds. And when I mean by what people will be willing to do for the religion, it's highlighted extremely well. It is extremely disturbing when you'll see it. And I'll just say episode 6, when you guys get to that episode, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. It will leave you speechless, and seeing the fear and the horrors in this show is highlighted beautifully in that episode. So I don't want to leave without mentioning my favorite episodes. I think episode 2 and 3 were masterpieces. In particularly, 2 was one of my favorite episodes of TV, period. And 3 was absolutely fantastic. And then I can't leave without mentioning episode 4 will leave your jaw on the floor, and episode 5 will have you in all-out tears. And I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll talk about it more in the spoiler portion. But let's move on to some of my criticisms with the show. I love dialogue, more so particularly engaging dialogue, and there's a lot of that in this show. But sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, it's almost overwhelming. There are several moments in the show where a variety of characters, they have like these long monologues, these speeches that felt like they were forever. If I'm being long, it was just very, very meticulous, very detailed. It almost it slowed down some of the momentum of the show, like especially if something exciting was happening, we would have these characters having these really long conversations. Again, great performances, delivery was fantastic, the direction was great, but I found myself kind of veering off because we was like, okay, can we move on? There were almost points where I feel like the characters were reading chapters from the Bible, and again, that's not a slight towards the Bible, I'm just saying it's like it felt so long. I felt like someone was reading a dictionary at time in regards to, again, no knock towards what they were saying or how it was being said. It was just like, can we move on? Maybe a little bit, and then it happens, not a lot, but it happens a couple times where I feel like that dialogue kind of overshadowed some of the momentum that was going on in the show, which brings me to my next criticism. I think it's intentional. I know it's intentional. the show takes its time, especially in the first half of the show. It really kind of takes its time to develop these characters, to develop their routines, to show you where they come from, to show you their past, to show you their trauma, see what's on their plate. But it is a little bit slow. I'm not going to lie. Again, you learn who these people are, especially in the first 2 episodes. And I appreciate a slow burn, but there are some pieces of the puzzle that took a little slow for my taste to kind of get to the main thick of things, which brings me lastly to... I found the last 2 episodes, episodes 6 and 7, to be a little bit underwhelming, especially the finale for me. And I say that because I felt like there were some very important characters in the narrative that seemed to stand still, that really didn't move forward in the last half of the show, that literally are in one position, one location for like the entirety of the second half or the entirety of episodes 6 and 7, and don't really add much to the main climax of the episode, especially in the finale. And we would get, like, in exchange for those important characters that were just sitting there, we would get these kind of insignificant, like there's a character by the name of Surge who kind of takes the forefront of this situation that's at hand in episode 7, and I'm just like, it's not that the acting's bad, it's just like this character is kind of not giving me what I want from the other characters that are more significant to the story. So again, when you all see what I'm talking about, you see the finale, it felt a little bit kind of stagnant in my personal opinion. But listen, overall, before I give you my final thoughts and let you know if it's worth watching, and before we get into the spoilers, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell. That way you don't miss any more other content. Overall, this is Mike Flanagan's most ambitious story to date, the most detailed, the most meticulous character piece that he has brought to the screen. Every character brings their A+++ game. Father Paul and Bev being the standouts for me and stealing the show, even with the dialogue getting in his way of the pacing at points, and the conclusion leaving me with a little bit more. This is without a doubt a must-watch series for horror fans, non-horror fans, religious people, non-religious people. This is a much-watch television show, and I can't recommend it enough. So that's my thoughts, non-spoilers on Midnight Mass. Now it's time to have fun. We're going to kind of break it all down as I pull up my notes here for the episodes. Again, some episodes will get a little bit more in detail with the comments here, but we're just going to break down each episode and kind of get you guys' thoughts in the comments. So, of course, spoilers ahead. Once you've seen it, let me know your thoughts on these particular episodes. Let me know what moments worked for you, what didn't, and let's have some conversations about it. So, starting off with episode 1, Book of Genesis. We go to Crockett Island. We hear about the oil spill. We hear how Bev kind of took advantage of the oil spill and how the town has never been the same since. But more importantly, we meet Riley. We get the first scene of the episode where he has a car accident. The girl that he kills, which I don't know if they mention her name ever, but he's haunted by the image of seeing her face, the glass, and the ambulance and the police lights going off. And that was something that was that image. Whenever Riley would go to bed and just seeing her, that almost kind of gave me the whole bent neck lady from Haunting on Hill House in regards to just seeing that image. It's just like, that is haunting. How do you go to sleep with that image in your head? But again, learning who Riley is as he makes his way back to the island, meeting and learning who Erin is and hearing about her past and how her mom really was like the complete opposite of her, and she's always kind of running away from becoming her mom, which she never does. But again, she's doing a lot of the stuff that her mom did regarding being in this island, sleeping in the bed, interacting with these people that she's grown up with. So learning these characters were very pivotal to this show, especially within this first episode. But more importantly, we meet the new priest in town, Father Paul, as he's introduced to the town, as he's bringing his luggage that we'll talk about, Angel, here in a bit. But it's in this first episode that I really didn't know what we were diving into. Is it a haunted story? Is it supernatural? Is it monsters? So this is the inklings here of what we're kind of diving into as the kids go off to the private haunted island, as they're talking about the cats are coming out of nowhere. And then they mention that the dead that are buried on this hollow, secluded island come up something. And are we talking about zombies, or is the priest going to raise these people up from the dead? Not quite, but sort of, kind of. We'll get into that a little bit later. But essentially, episode 1 ends with Riley thinking he sees the Monsignor in the rain and thinking that he sees him, which he does technically, because the Monsignor was there. But more importantly, we end the episode with all those dead cats washing upon shore. So I'm like, well, what are we dealing with here? What are these cats? We got fishes eating cats, but we'll talk about why those cats made their way into shore, which brings us to episode 2. I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, this is my favorite episode of the series. This is one of my favorite episodes of TV this year. This was such a fantastically acted, written, directed, incredible episode as they're celebrating Ash. Again, one of the best episodes of TV this year, and this is where we see Father Paul is getting more acquainted, or getting back acquainted with the people, because we all know who Father Paul is, but he's getting more acquainted with the people. And I'm reading in my notes here, and this is where I'm starting to get the clues, and let me know if you guys got the clues as well. I put in my notes, I believe the blood he's giving them is affecting them. And the reason I put that in my notes is because we saw Riley mom, she was reading a book, and her vision was getting blurry with her glasses on. When she took them off, it was clear as day. So I'm like, he's doing something with the blood. And we'll talk about more of those signs of who Father Paul is a little bit later. But again, I have here, I think Father Paul is the Monsignor, because we see that Sarah, she's talking to her friend of hers, and her being a gay woman, and she's having a conversation with, I don't know if it's a girlfriend or someone she wants to be in a relationship with once she gets off this island, which she never does, which is so sad. But she says that the way that Father Paul was looking at her was the exact same way that Monsignor used to look at her when she was a kid, because he had some inklings that she, again, we know in the religion, that in some religions they frown upon, the LGBTQ community and being gay or what have you. So when she said that, I'm like, dude, is that the Monsignor? Like, how did he get younger? Still not knowing that we're dealing with vampires. But again, this second episode just kind of laid the breadcrumbs to what's to come. But let's talk about one of the most talked about characters of the show, and that is Beverly Keane, as she does something very despicable. She is, forget Angel. She's the demon. She's the villain of this show, as she poisons a dog. How do you do that? Joe's dog, we know the beef between her and Joe just from the get-go when the dog was barking. I can't remember the dog's name, but the dog was, Pike, was barking at her when she went to the store. And we learn a little bit more backstory of the characters. Joe paralyzed Liza, and that's the whole thing going on there. But again, she poisoned the dog. And then we go back to that scene when she goes to the closet, and they don't show her taking it, but they show you the pan of the poison. And I'm like, wow, you don't mess with dogs. You can kill men, women, and children, right, in media, but when you mess with animals, you got another thing on your hand. And I'm like, dude, she is despicable. But again, I'm looking here in my notes. I really appreciated how we're getting, again, it was slow at times, but I did appreciate learning who these characters are, learning their routines, seeing where they come from, seeing, how these people interact on a day-to-day basis. And I really kind of appreciate that. And I even have here, Bev and Father Paul are absolutely incredible. And then we kind of wrap up episode 2, which again was my favorite. 2 really great moments. First and foremost, we see our first victim, and this is where I got the hints. Okay, we're dealing with, I didn't know if it was a vampire, but I'm like, we're dealing with some type of creature, some type of monster. The drug dealer, who I can't remember his name, he gets killed, and he goes in that abandoned house, and we hear, we see the demon. I'm like, okay, we're dealing with something crazy, some supernatural stuff. But more importantly, the moment I was like, oh my goodness, we are getting to some good stuff here. Liza walks after, we see Father Paul not giving her the communion, stepping further back, and everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? This is cruel. She gets up, takes the body of God, takes the blood, and here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The miracles are starting to make their way to Crockett Island as we move to episode 3. And this is, we get a cameo. I don't know if you all noticed, but Mike Flanagan does make a cameo. And this whole episode is essentially, and this is so beautifully done. I'm not a big fan of when shows do like an entire episode dedicated to flashbacks and showing you what happened before that. But I always love when a show, and especially this episode, when we cut between, okay, what happened to Monsignor, but what's going on in the present day and how that connects. So I love that narrative that we get in this 3rd episode, and we see what happened to him. As we see, more people are starting to attend church with this main miracle happen. And again, in my notes, I'm saying Father Paul's doing something with that communion blood, and we'll get to that by the end of this episode. But we get these really great scenes of forgiveness. Liza giving her forgiveness to Joe after obviously what he did, shooting her and drinking and being consumed and drinking. And then we have this incredible scene with the sheriff talking to the school and Bev and Aaron about the Bible and how the Bible was used and how they're giving the Bible to the kids. And that whole back and forth is just public schools being educated with the Bible, not being educated with the Bible. It was just such a interesting, fascinating, and I don't want to dive too deep into it because I don't want to offend people, but it was very well said, very well executed. You saw kind of both sides. Again, the show never points who's right, who's wrong, but you can see both sides of the spectrum, right? So I love those two back-to-back scenes. We get some emotional moments in this episode with Sarah's mom, Mildred, I believe her name. She's starting to come back. Her Alzheimer's is going away. She's walking around the house. She's going upstairs. So I love that moment for those characters. We see, again, the sheriff and the chief in town, him talking to his son about his wife and her death and why he doesn't necessarily gravitate towards Christianity. Why would God take away my wife? Why are all these terrible things happening to people around the world? Which is a question a lot of people have, right? And I just love the conversation that character brought to the forefront. Wrapping it up, this is where things get really crazy. We see Father Paul. He dies due to the hunger that he doesn't have. I thought that he was poisoned. I was thinking like Bev is really going off the rails. I thought that she poisoned him for she can be like the Monsignor, but no, it was all part of this elaborate plan because we get the backstory. Monsignor gets lost in the desert. He comes across a cave. He comes across the same creature that took out the drug dealer in the previous episode, and he begins to suck his blood. Hence, we got a vampire story on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, as he is now taken back to many, many years when he was younger. He is now the younger version. He's no longer Father Paul. He is actually the Monsignor. And we see at the same time that he dies. And I love the way that they played those scenes. He dies as an old man, comes back as a young man. We go back to present day. He dies and comes back, reborn, re-risen as the vampire that he's going to be in the rest of the show. So what a great way to end the episode, especially too when Bev sees the picture on the very beginning of the episode. If you all remember, she looked at the picture for like 2 seconds and the camera never shows you what she saw until the end, that was him in the picture, and obviously he's been there the whole time. So I love that moment in the episode, which brings us to episode 4. Which has to be one of the most emotional moments of the show, without a doubt. Erin, who's so sweet, who's so kind, who's been, rekindling her friendship, which I believe they were trying to maybe have a thing again with Riley. She has Littlefoot in her stomach. Excited to be a mom. We don't really know her backstory, but it sounds like she was in an abusive relationship. She has a miscarriage, which was extremely, extremely sad to see how that played out. And then again, we learned that it's because of the blood and the body heals itself. It was just such an emotional moment. Father Paul, we see his transition becoming this vampire as he, the light, he can't be near the light, which by the way, as far as, tropes of vampires, I guess these vampires, the whole cross, like they were obviously walking in church. So I guess that wasn't part of the lore, but the light, they can't be in the light was something that came to light. And he believes that Angel, the vampire, is an actual angel and not the actual devil, which is so like in the vampire realm, that's something that plays around in religion, that angels that fall from heaven come to be these demons, aka vampires. So I love the kind of connections that Mike Flanagan kind of plays within the lore of what we come to know in media from vampires. So we see Paul starts to drink his own blood and starts to kind of put the pieces to the puzzle, like, okay, this is blood, this is light, I'm transforming into a vampire that we get here. And again, kind of moving on, they have so many great monologues in this episode. The meaning of heaven, heaven is love, it's not being alone. I love that dialogue between what we get with Riley and Erin in that moment. We get our first kind of major character biting the bullet as Joe, at this point, Joe and Riley and Father Paul are having these AA meetings, and Joe is having some difficulties. He's actually becoming better and starting to forgive himself. He pays a visit to Father Paul at that point, and unfortunately, Father Paul can't resist the blood, ladies and gentlemen. He tries to hug him. He falls. Joe hits his head, and instead of helping him, calling 911, calling Sarah Gunning, he just drinks his blood, drinks his head. I mean, that scene there was absolutely, like, I was shocked. Like, it was just so, the way they placed it, the way they put the scene together was so well, masterfully crafted. Speaking of a ride or die, Bev comes in, walks over Joe's body and just like, it was like nothing to her. Like, it makes me wonder if she's killed someone in the she killed a dog. So if you can kill a dog, you can kill anyone. So I wonder if she's killed someone in the past before, because she was just like, she was unfazed by this. She calls in Wade and Serge to help him out, and again, she's just giving them instructions, put the body in the bed. Like, she's done some evil things in her past. We can assume that about Beverly, as Aaron goes to the mainland to find out that her body's healed herself, and the doctor's like, you need to go see the therapist because you were never pregnant, which again was just I felt so bad for the character. But we end things with one of the shocking moments of this show, which I'm thinking this whole time, this is Riley's story. He's our main hero of the story. He's going to save everyone. He's going to forgive himself. He's going to marry Erin. They're going to have a happy ever after story. Night by Mike Flanagan. We see Angel giving Paul more blood as he's thanking him, and Riley wants to go back to that auditorium because it's what Father Paul says to him regarding Joe's not here because he's visiting his sister. As we know, Joe told Riley his sister died many, many years ago, so he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Instead of her going and seeing Erin that night that he promised her to do, he makes his way to the auditorium. He sees Father Paul on the floor praying, and right ahead is the angel, who is, again, giving the blood, turns around, lunges at Riley. End of the episode. What a fantastic way, because I'm like, that's our hero. That's our main character. At least I thought it was at that point, but more so it ended up being Aaron's character. But moving on to Gospel, episode 5, as Aaron is filing the missing reports for Riley at this point. The church moves its sermons to nighttime because obviously we know they perform better at night, vampires. Sarah's mom is at this point much younger. I think she's probably even younger than her own daughter at this point in the episode. Riley's back. He pays a visit to Erin and he tells her everything that's happened. And we get the flashbacks, which was so great to kind of see that when he's transforming after he wakes up from being bitten, and having those dialogue, those moments between him and the Monsignor, John Pruitt, was so fantastic. Just that tit for tat, back-to-back conversations they were having was absolutely fantastic. And we see, again, he's giving him all the tips and tricks. This is a gift. This is a gift from God, Riley. Take advantage. This is your second chance. Forgive yourself. How do you feel about it that I was able to kill someone and not have any remorse? You killed that woman 4 years ago. How do you feel? I feel jealous. You have a gift now. Give the gift to someone else. So we move on, ladies and gentlemen, to one of the most saddest moments of TV this year, as he tells her this whole story. And I'm thinking that he's going to take her out in this water. He's going to say, hey, not to intimidate her, because he tells her, I'm not here to scare you, but I'm thinking that he was going to give her a gift and we can live together for the rest of time. Riley makes the call, ladies and gentlemen. He knows the sunrise is coming. He tells, again, I got emotional. I got emotional in this moment. He tells Erin that he loves her and to do me one thing, get the hell off of this island. Sun comes, he evaporates, he dies right in front of her. And I'm telling you right now, Mike Flanagan's a genius, because to have her screaming throughout the credit, I don't know if you guys watch it, because I know Netflix sometimes just goes right to the next episode. If you don't know, I'm going to let you know. Throughout the entire credits, you hear Erin screams, her cries of seeing her love of her life die right in front of her, and that was like absolutely heartbreaking, and such a genius move to continue to have that scene going on. Whew, that was heartbreaking. Which brings us to episode 6, which was one of the most disturbing scenes I've seen all year. As we see, Acts of Apostles is the name of it. It opens with Erin as she is there. Is she going to stay? Is she going to go? She does go back to the island because she wants to save the people she loves. She tells Sarah everything. Sarah, at first, she's like, is she going to believe her? But Sarah's been witnessing some miracles with her mom, so of course she believes. She shows her the blood. She tells her mom. They're all on the same page. I love that we didn't have like, oh, you're lying, this is fake. I love that the show was like, nope, they've both seen some shit, so they can believe each other, which I appreciate that approach about the show. Which, speaking of approach, we see Ed approaches the Monsignor with the letters that Riley left behind, which was such an emotional moment for him, because he really wanted the best for his son, and he thinks his son took his own life, which technically he did, but for the right reasons, right? As we see, Erin tries to tell Annie the truth, and she doesn't want to hear it, as she tells her that, your son's died, and she just doesn't want to hear it, which was a very emotional moment. We see that John and his apostles have taken orders to stop the ferries, to stop the lights, and it's Easter weekend. And this is where things get very dark. Father Pruitt tells everyone the truth of his identity. We see Serge drinks the poison, and we see the angel is on his way to showcase his miracles. He lets his wings off. We see at this point the chief is he doesn't want his son there, but he goes there. He tries to get out of the situation. He shoots, the angel and shoots a shot of warning. And we see at this point his son Ali chooses God. He drinks the poison, he dies, and we start to see, not everyone, but the majority of the congregation starts to drink the poison, and we see them dying, we see people freaking out. I mean, that was one of the most disturbing things I've seen all year. Ultimately, again, this is very, religion, drinking the Kool-Aid, to say the least, very dark stuff. We see the people starting to come back from the dead, and then, of course, that means that they've now died, come back, they've risen, but they've risen as the vampires. So they are now extremely thirsty, and seeing the little kids dying, people, husbands killing their wives killing their kids. It was just a very, very, very dark, very twisted. Me being a horror fan, I loved every second of it. I'm not gonna lie, but it was very terrifying to see all that stuff shake out. But we see the people starting to rise, which again, very allegory to religion rising, especially on Easter Sunday. Very correlations there. We see the survivors that didn't take the blood, that didn't drink the Kool-Aid. Annie, the chief, Liza, Aaron, Sarah, Riley's brother, Warren. And then Bev, she was hiding the whole time, but Aaron shoots her. And, she says, "You're just gonna stop me for 5 minutes." And I love that line where Aaron's like, "Well, we got 5 minutes," but she shoots her, which we know Bev deserved that. Absolute bloodbath, ladies and gentlemen, as they're starting to all rise, very Game of Thrones-ish from the winter with the Night King there. And it is now time to spread the gospel as we end that horrific, terrifying, disturbing episode, which brings me to Revelations. Episode 7, I wasn't the biggest fan of, I'm not going to lie. Margaret has changed. She sees the town, because Margaret, she was taken out by angels. She sees the town is now feasting on everyone. Everyone's eating on everyone. Some people know the trick to bring people back is to give them your blood, but not everyone knew that because, unfortunately, Monsignor was shot in the head, so he wasn't able to, his plan wasn't able to come out to fruition. We see Annie, which was a very, very good moment. Annie stalls by killing herself, cutting her throat as Bev and Serge are distracted because they need the blood as everyone else is getting out, and they're kind of splitting up here. And I love the moment before she kills herself. She tells Bev, which we all want to tell Bev, watching it at home, "You're a terrible person. You are a bad person," which I love that moment there. But moving on to Father Pruitt, as we learn a big secret that him and Modric, there was a rumor that the priest had a kid, and the kid is revealed to be Sarah, which was a pretty great reveal. I did not see that coming, which leave it to Bev. She takes her whole religious relief, and she wants to burn the island, very Noah Ark, and she wants to pick and choose who's the good ones and the bad ones, as John no longer wants to take part in this and spreading the word, and Bev gives him her peace of mind, and you are my hardest test. She leaves her follower, her leader, and she becomes a leader in this point, and all hell breaks loose when that happens. So Bev, like I said, literally she's a gatekeeper. She's telling people who can come in and out of this auditorium before the sunrise. Again, Bev was the absolute worst in the best way possible. We see Serge suit Sarah, and her parents try to save her, and we see Monsignor try to give her the blood. She refuses, and she ultimately dies, which again I mentioned in my non-spoiler review. Seeing Monsignor and seeing Maldridge kind of just, they have some good dialogue, but it was like Serge was like the main character. Serge and Bev, who I'm a big fan of, they were the main characters, but it seemed like everyone was just like scattered around and reappearing and disappearing. It was just kind of a clunky way to kind of handle it. And again, the way there was like a kind of some comedy in the episode, especially when Serge is talking to that one guy that Bev didn't let in. It was just a weird episode to me. I don't know. Let me know how you all felt about the finale. Again, it was very powerful stuff, but it was just kind of just weird the way it was like paced and put together. Neither here nor there. We wrap up things with the chief and Aaron attempting to burn down the auditorium, but this is where Bev and the angel stops them. We see Bev shoots the sheriff, and we see the angel is drinking the blood of Aaron. While he's doing that, she's cutting his wings, which was very smart of her, but ultimately we know that she dies, which, by the way, that moment, that dialogue of her talking to, hallucination, whatnot, with Riley was such a beautiful thing as she's describing what it's like to die. It's God. It's life. Life is simply a dream. It's no life or death, but a dream. That whole monologue was so beautiful. We see at this point, while Aaron's getting fed on cutting the angel's wings and he flies away, which was smart of her, we see that Eliza and Warren are on the boat, and they say it's 30 miles out. So I want to know in the comments, guys, did the angel survive or did he die with the sunrise? Personal opinion, open-ended, I think he dies, but I don't know. Mike Flanagan, let me know if you guys think Angel died or not on that, if he made it to the mainland or not. But wrapping things up, we see the chief and his son Ali praying together. We see everyone else in the town are singing hymns together, but the only person alone, and they should die alone, is Bev, and she, even to the last moments, was fantastic. The sun's coming up, the town's on fire. What a beautiful shot as we see Liza and Warren on the boat. She starts to lose feelings, or she starts to lose the feeling in her legs, which means that this gotta goes to answer my own question, since the main, tropes of vampires, you kill the head of the person that, made all these vampires, you're gonna probably lose the powers and lose, all the abilities. So I assume that answers the question, did Angel make it off the island or not? He dies, hence why Liza feels her legs. And we end with them seeing the ashes of their childhood, their parents, their loved ones, their friends falling on them. End of the show. Whew, again, the final episode, there were some really great moments, like I just mentioned that last moment there, but it was just, again, seeing Serge and some of the comedic jokes and seeing some of the characters popping in and out. Monsignor and his lover, past lover, the mother of his child, and Sarah. I just wish there was maybe more moments with them versus Serge going around with Bev, lighting up houses and seeing Angel eating people and all that. It was just a weird episode. I don't know how to describe it, but let me know how you all felt about it. But that's my breakdown of each episode. Again, highlighting episode 2 as one of the best episodes of TV. Highlighting episode 3, the way things play out in regards to the miracles at hand. And then episode 4 with the baby, the miscarriage. And then episode 5 with thinking our main character was going to be the hero and they become a vampire was so great. And then seeing episode 6, which is so haunting, seeing what people would do for their belief system. So, we have made it to the very end of this long video, but like I said in my non-spoiler portion, masterful work by Mike Flanagan, incredible performances, the discussions and the themes that were highlighted in the show, the production of the show was so masterful. I do have my issues with some of the dialogue being a little bit too heavy-handed, slowing down the momentum. The finale didn't work for me entirely. It feels a little bit underwhelming, but neither here nor there. What a fantastic piece of art. Highly recommended. Again, guys, this is spoilers, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Pros, cons, thoughts, theories, predictions for, what Mike Flanagan can do next, which I believe he's working with Netflix in a couple months, or next year he's going to have another horror. I think it's called Midnight Club or something like that. I'll have to double check it, but I'm really excited to see what he does next, because he's one of the best, not only horror directors, but just one of the best directors working right now. So I'm really excited to see what he does next. So thank you all. I gotta get some water. I'm very thirsty. Get some communion in my body here. But I appreciate every single one of you all. If you stuck around to this point in the video, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe to the channel, check out my other content. Hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you on the next video.